Right, I think we're recording. Yes, we are recording. Okay, so first of all, I got to put a legal thing on here. Okay, um, 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 and we are now recording this conversation. And the
Hmm.
reason we're recording it is because we want to preserve it just in case it's useful with your permission to show others so they can learn from it as well. You're okay with
Perfect.
that?
That's fine, Gary. Yes.
All right, great. Okay, so that kind of stuff. Just a minute, I gotta click something here. That what is this? No, no. Okay. Um, all right. Okay. Everything we've done so far is going to get edited out and put someplace because nobody's going to see it. Okay. We're going to
Yeah.
start right around here. Okay.
Okay. Go on. Yeah. Let me just moisturize my lips before we start. Go on.
Oh, a little vanity, no less. Oh my
No,
goodness.
a little dry mouth, a little bit nervous, actually.
We're just going to have a conversation. That's all.
Yeah.
Okay. Now. Okay. So, and thank you for calling me. We've been talking a little bit about a somewhat unusual circumstance that you've run into with an unseen therapist. And I wanted to record it in case others might learn from it. So, and so by background, um, you and I met some time ago, and one of your issues was um, a money lack problem. I'm correct?
Yes. Yes, Gary.
All right. Like it'd been ongoing for years, and somehow or other, you need money, but it doesn't show up, and
Yeah.
this has been an issue. Okay.
Yeah.
And then, as we were doing you're part of our membership, our Optimal EFT course membership, and as part of a recent exercise where we're trying to ask unseen therapists,
Mm.
what's the real issue here? What are the causes, etc.
Yeah.
You put a question up on this TV screen, and what was the question?
The question was something to the effect of why do I have this ongoing issue with money, lack of, not enough, struggle with, etc., etc.
All right. So you put it up there, and the way that this technique goes is this is the way of asking unseen therapist, okay? And then you get quiet and you just as quiet as you can, and you wait to see what shows up on this TV screen.
Mm.
You never know whether it's really your own chatter going up there or it's really true guidance because all of this competes and it's a skill to try to figure out which is which. But tell us what happened.
So what happened was, your suggestion was to just write down whatever it was came into our minds. Whatever, like apples, oranges, it didn't matter. Just whatever came, write it down, forget it, don't analyze it. So some things were coming in that weren't very significant, and then I suddenly had a memory of being in my bedroom. I was probably, I don't know, 7, 8. Of my mum it's morning time to get up. My mum bursting in the door, pulling back the curtains with great, energy, and a big kind of a real urgent, come on, get up, you're going to be late for school, get up, get up. Now that happened probably every single school morning of my whole childhood, okay, pretty much. And each time I connected to such a sense of the anxiety and the shock in my system of that sort of assault energetically on my system.
Yes. Okay.
So that's
All
what
right.
came as
Yeah.
and that came as, it was there on the list in the answer to my question.
Uh-huh. Okay. And interestingly enough, that doesn't seem on its surface to have anything to do with a money lack issue.
No,
I mean, it's not something that you would kind of ponder what could my causes be, and then that one would show up.
no.
It seems to have no relationship whatsoever. But anyway,
But yeah.
continue.
So I can't say I went away and did, a whole lot with that, but somehow it was, to use your phrase, on the table, and somehow some dots had been joined. Okay, so the
Well, wait a
webinar,
minute. I'm sorry. Somehow, what had been joined?
some dots had been joined.
Oh,
You know,
dots,
dots.
dots. Yeah,
You know, the dots had
yeah.
been so
Dots had
somehow.
been connected, we say in America. Okay.
Okay,
You're from
okay.
Ireland. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, and we joined the dots. Okay, so the dots had been connected.
All right.
And the webinar finished and life went on. Life went on. I certainly carried it with me. There was something about, okay, let's let that just sit there. About 6 days later, I was getting dressed in the morning. I was on my own in my bedroom, and I don't know, was I drying my hair or something? And I had this moment where I thought, I really like my life, and had a real moment of peace, huge gratitude, and just very quiet, nobody around, no drama, but this real sense of I like my life. That is the first time I've ever said that without saying, I like 50% of it, 80% of it. There was always a percent that there was something needed to be addressed or fixed in my world. And
Like more money.
exactly. So
Yeah.
80% is in flow, but there's this 20% and it's the money issue or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And in my younger days, there would have been way more issues than 20%, but that's what it had narrowed down to. And just I went around that day with a real feeling of just feeling very peaceful, but feeling extremely grateful at a really quiet, deep level.
Okay.
That
Let,
evening,
let me
okay.
interject something. At this point,
Mm-hmm.
are you somehow connecting this waking up abruptly in the morning with s- um, with an impediment to having that kind of, I'm going to call it abundance feeling because I think you're going there.
Yeah, I am going there. No, I mean, I literally, without looking for it, without going quiet, without anything, this feeling just sort of descended on me. A bit like I have read, you would talk to other people. There's some articles on your website. I wouldn't call it bliss, but I would call it absolute peace and total contentment. And, everything was just fine and perfect.
Okay.
That was the feeling.
Okay. But the question I want to ask you is: at this point, are you connecting somehow this abrupt waking it up as a child with this experience of
No,
peace? All right.
no,
All right.
no,
Go
I'm
ahead.
I'm not.
All
No,
right.
this is 6 days later, and I'm not, connecting the dots, so to speak, on that one.
Okay.
Um, that evening, I go to the cinema. I come out of the cinema, and I've got a number of messages on my cell phone, which tell me that my name has been picked out to go on a TV program, basically to win some money. We have scratch cards. I don't know, do you have them in the States? And you scratch them. If you get 3 stars, you send it off. And, many of us do many times, and that's the end of it. But my name got pulled out as one of 5 people.
Mm-hmm.
And so a week later, which was last Saturday, went to this TV game. And, which is a very corny game, but, it was quite a bit of fun actually just to experience it. And at the end of the half an hour, 40 minutes, basically I came home with a check for €33,000.
Okay.
And there's a couple of things about it. Firstly, it was just the unseen therapist was very present throughout it in keeping me very grounded, keeping me very present, and keeping me from my mind running ahead. I mean, this is a game where you pick number 1 to 6 and a door opens and there's an amount of money behind it. It's just a fun
Okay.
random game.
You were aware of her presence as you were doing this game.
Very aware, and this has been televised. I mean, this is on, Ireland isn't big, but this is on Irish television. It's going to be played that evening. It's being recorded.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this little mantra going around my mind, just keep me centered, keep me in the moment, and just be with me. And I was just very peaceful. I was very peaceful throughout it. And I was able to be in a moment of gratitude as opposed to, oh, what if such and such an amount is behind that door when it opens. It was really different to how I might have been in a similar circumstance even 6 months ago. I would be so ungrounded and out of myself and kind of swept along by the occasion and whatever. And there was something very peaceful and very centered about it.
Okay. Now, you and I have had some conversations over the last few months,
Yes.
and to my eyes, you are one of our more diligent students. You have been doing your practicing. You have gotten into very peaceful states before. You have made good progress here. Okay, along with the unseen therapist. So it doesn't surprise me that at a critical moment, because you have practice, etc.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, first of all, she's always there, but our skill or our challenge is to recognize it, listen to it, hear it, immerse ourselves in in this presence, rather than have all the chatter that goes on in our life
Yes.
dominate. Okay, so you were
Yeah.
able to do that for this. Now, I'm going to jump ahead here just a minute, but I think you're going to tell me. Okay,
Go
um,
on.
let's see how well I do. Okay, I think you're going to tell me that this peace that you have or we're having, instead of this anxiety laden existence otherwise, was what allowed money to come in. As long as you're running around with anxiety and you're worrying, etc., it's a way actually of shutting the door.
Yeah.
And I'm suggesting you allow the door to open. But those are my words. Don't use them. I just want to see how well I did.
You're absolutely spot on, Gary. The phrase that came to me at the time was like, there is something about surrendering and there is something about letting go. And I think I can only speak for myself. I know that's what happened. I know that's what happened. However, I don't know how I got there, only through the practice, and it finally happened. I did not cognitively at any point, and I couldn't cognitively decide, I'll just surrender, I'll just let all this go, and all will be fine. Something happened very deep within me. And I would agree with you, more than likely happened through just chipping away at little bits of closing my eyes, connecting in. I don't sit for hours with the unseen therapist, but she's very present for me. And I do call on her, and it might just be, can you be here for this? It might just be a really quick, informal little 3 words. I tend to look up when I connect with her for whatever reason. So there was a real sense, something within me absolutely let go and surrendered, and I guess handed it over. However, it happened at a really deep, unconscious level. It wasn't a doing thing, it was a sort of being thing.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. A scientifically oriented skeptic who would be listening to this conversation might conclude, well, there's no proof here. There's no evidence here. This could be mere coincidence. I mean, people who win the lottery, people who win stuff like that, they're lucky. Okay, so she got lucky, and now we're trying to say that luck, might be the unseen therapist or something like that. And, from an objective point of view, they got a point. Okay, what would you
Okay.
say?
I would say, what I would say to that somebody who is saying those words, there's nothing I can say to convince them. However, I know by the state that I was in and by the sense of calm and the sense of peace. I know that's not a place I've lived most of my life. And I absolutely know there was a door open and there was a receptivity to something.
Okay, now, thank you. And because that brings up a little thought that goes through my mind quite often, and there are always people out there trying to prove or disprove EFT scientifically and do studies and all this kind of stuff. And while I've always kind of appreciated the effort And I
Mm.
know our scientific community wants, validated proof, et cetera. We're into an area that is outside of, our scientific borders. I mean,
Yeah.
our scientists, bless their hearts, and all the effort they do and everything else, are trying to use methods that exist within the world of separation,
Mm.
a world of separation, and we're trying to access a world of oneness, and they're
Yeah.
very different. And so, how can you really take, the ideas that are within an illusion of separateness,
Mm.
um, and try to validate or invalidate something that comes from outside that.
Yeah.
So I understand it. I'm an engineer and a scientist myself, so I have to stand in the skeptic's shoes. But I've also had your kind of experience, and I I vote for you, although we can't prove it in
Mm.
scientific terms.
No, I think. I mean, I had a very clear sense of. I had a very clear sense of her throughout all of that and being very connected. And people might say, well, this is another bit of a coincidence, but a really tangible for me sort of message of confirmation or affirmation was um, when these particular scratch cards are pulled out of a drum, the previous week to me being on the program, they pull five out. And when they're pulled out, there's a number on each of them, 1 to 100, so that the presenters know, oh, it's number whatever. So my card was number 33. I just remember hearing that. The date I was on the program was the 3rd of March, which is 3-3, and I won 33,000, 3-3. And I just thought, coincidence maybe, but to me it was just a bit of a thumbs up from up there somewhere going, telling you we're definitely with you.
Okay. Now, I want to go back. Thank you. I want to go back to something. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't have the connection, and maybe there isn't one, between your mother waking you up early, abruptly,
Mm-hmm.
and this financial unfolding.
Yeah, oh, okay. And because I was very present in it when we were on the webinar, and I would nearly have to go back and look at the webinar again because I did speak on that particular webinar to give you feedback of what had happened for me. Um, the kind of repeated, I mean, she was just coming in her energetic state, waking me up, but that repeated what I perceived as assault on my system and just the absolute opposite of what would suit me to be woken up, which would be somebody gently tiptoeing into the room and, are you awake, darling? And, leaving the curtains closed. I think there was just so much fight, flight, and anxiety that was still there in my system, stuck, trapped, whatever. And somehow it feels that even the fact of putting it on the table, even without having kind of picked it apart and brought the unseen therapist into many, many of those events, it seems suddenly it was in the light and it just allowed a door to open.
Okay,
Now
now,
that's my take on it, Gary. I mean, how do I know? But
well,
that's my take.
okay, but let me explore that with you. Interesting idea. Okay, so yes, the way we're teaching it step by step, this our optimal EFT process using the unseen therapist, is there's a formal way of doing it. We close our eyes, we get to a loving moment. We focus on our what we want to fix. We bring
Mm.
unseen therapists, typically a specific event. We'd like to bring it down to that. And what you're talking about, by the way, is a specific event, mother coming in, da, 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 okay.
Yeah.
All right. Although she may have done it many times, but still it's got all the features of a specific event in it. Okay.
Yeah.
So um, the unseen therapist doesn't really have to have us do this whole protocol. And that's more for us to have a step by step process. Okay.
Mm.
So I'm going to guess, but also want to test it, that what she did was took that issue that you had on the table that came up in this exercise we did, that's mother coming in and abruptly waking you up,
Mm-hmm.
and resolved your emotional anxiety around
Mm.
it. That loosened you up, allowed you to have less, or more peace in your system and less anxiety, etc. Okay.
Yeah.
Therefore, that opens you to allowing, as time goes on, abundance that wasn't ordinarily there. Now, is that a stretch? I don't know, but I do want to do one little test, if you would. So, if you
Okay.
would kindly just close your eyes for me, okay? Take a deep breath and just kind
Hmm.
of get quiet. And now go back to this experience, being a child, your mother coming in, all this abrupt waking up, the anxiety involved, etc.
Hmm.
Go through it, really get to it, exaggerate the sights, the sounds, the feelings, everything. Try to get yourself worked up about it, upset, etc. Well, take your shaking your head, but really get into it, okay? Really test it, and then tell me what happens for you.
Okay. Okay, I'll tell you what happens. Most of it, there's nothing left to it. The bit that would probably still have a little, I could still feel a little reaction to it is the loud voice coming in the door. But the door being, pushed open very hard, the curtains, what it feels like is I'm in the bed, I can see exactly where I am. It's like I've been pre-warned. It's like there's something there telling me, okay, just get ready because this thing's about to happen again. So it's like I've been pre-warned, and it's almost like as if I've been shielded a bit from it. So it's still happening in the room, but when I picture, the curtains, and I mean really being, it wasn't a drawstring, it was like pulled apart. Everything was very dramatic in how it was done, and none of that feels an assault on the system. The only bit that there's probably a little bit left on is that the coming in the door and that get up, get up, get up. The voice still grates slightly, but the rest of it, there's nothing. And
Okay.
that was not the case when I would have had this come up a few weeks ago.
All right. So that sounds very much like a sizable success
Mm,
with the unseen therapist on a specific event. Okay. Um, Here you are days later, and now you can no longer get upset about except a voice or something, a smaller
mm,
piece of the thing. Now, that smaller piece of the thing, you can go back through it. My guess is that it represents some other thing. Okay.
mm.
We don't know what it is at this moment, but some other thing that you could do. But it seems that that anxiety related thing is now basically gone. What you're saying is you can remember the details of it,
Mm.
but the sting, the emotion, the anxiety is gone. Okay.
That's exactly
Except for
it.
this one little voice thing.
Yeah, and I think you're right. That more than likely is about, oh, that's my mother's voice, and I heard that too many times. So that probably is related to something
Okay.
else, which
Well,
is
it may also be related to an anxiety thing, et cetera, et cetera. But
yeah.
there is some reason to think that that kind of anxiety, and remember, that's a daily anxiety. Whoop, whoop, something's wrong in the world, anxious, anxious, anxious,
Mm,
embedded in a child, just carries on and carries on and carries on and doesn't go away just because you happen to leave home someday. Okay.
yeah.
Um, it's an anxiety ridden thing. So the anxiety out of the way, peace is more your thing now.
Yes.
You've allowed and so on. So anyway, the skeptic again could say stretch, 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 but I think we're putting some pieces in there. But we'll see. We'll see. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, uh, the skeptics don't have to bring in the unseen therapist.
No, no, they don't. And you know what, Gary? It's so, and I'm sure other people said the same. It's so an experience. It's not a thing. What I can share it with you and you can relate, but it's so, I don't really care about convincing anybody else. I'm happy to share it with anybody,
Yeah,
but it's
sure.
not really about convincing
Well, I sit in a
for
chair
me.
where people want
Yeah,
proof,
yeah,
so we do what we can. Okay.
yeah.
Anything else to add?
No, I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it.
All
But
right.
except I'm very grateful.
All right. Okay, thanks, Anne.